I hope you joined us for the Spud Nation Throwdown Finals. It was fabulous. I mean, both chefs, Diana and RJ, did a phenomenal job. So make sure you tune back. At around 2 o'clock today, we'll actually have the winner announcement. And their prize, you're not going to believe it. So make sure you come back. But right now, we're going to focus a little different on the eye, live here at the Potato Expo from Orlando, Florida. What we're going to do is talk about nutrition. Now, we've touched on nutrition of potatoes a little bit in our interviews yesterday and today, but we've got the two people who are really the researchers who are going to give us the lowdown of what's going on. To my right, Dr. Janet Rankin, you're doing some research. Also to my left, Dr. Lawrence Spriet, and who wants to get started? Tell us what research you're doing. Fight it out. Who wants to get started?
I can start.
Okay.
So my work is very interested in examining the nutritional needs of sports. And specifically, we do a lot of work with stop-and-go sports like soccer, basketball, ice hockey, and really looking at the importance of carbohydrate as a fuel for these types of sports. Carbohydrate is a very unique fuel in the sense that you can use it for what's called aerobic activities, like walking around or running around or cycling. But it's also important when you sprint. It also provides energy, and it's the only fuel in your body that allows you to do that. So we try to quantify just how much fuel is required in these various sports, the so-called stop-and-go sports, and then make sure that the athlete is consuming enough carbohydrate before, during, and after exercise to meet their needs.
So what this recalls for me is the beginnings of Gatorade. That was their positioning and putting more carbs in their case, a lot of extra sodium in there, and so on. So are you looking at potatoes as replacing whether it's coconut waters today or products like Gatorade?
Not really, because products like Gatorade actually don't have very much sodium in them and don't actually have that much carbohydrate, but they're designed primarily for during exercise. And potatoes would be a product, I think, that would be designed ideally for preparation before exercise, so making sure...
Like carb loading with pasta.
Yeah, not even carb loading, but just regular eating, and making sure that your muscle and your liver has enough carbohydrate. And the other important area that potatoes play a big role is in the recovery. Because surprisingly, when you do a hard workout, and let's say you use 75% of your body's carbohydrate store, and then you want to exercise again that day or the next day, you need to immediately start putting the carbohydrate back into the person. And somewhat frustratingly for people like Janet and I who study exercise, it takes about 20 to 24 hours for you to recover your muscle glycogen stores. So we push putting the carbohydrate back into the body as quickly as you can after exercise, so you're ready for the next exercise bout.
And Janet, tell us a little bit about your research.
One group we're interested in is athletes who want to lose weight. And you might think, well, athletes are doing a lot of activity. Why do they need to have to worry about that?
Well, I see some of those football players.
Yeah.
They're huge.
They are. But then there's also a runner, like a long-distance runner. They want to be very lean because any extra fat they have is like dead weight and costs them more calories, makes the race more difficult. So anyone who does a lot of jumping, extra weight makes the performance more difficult. Sure. So we've looked at weight loss diets and whether or not carbohydrate and protein are important, and we have found that yes, carbohydrate is critical because when you're losing weight, there's a drain on your stores of carbohydrate, so you actually have to eat even more carbohydrate than you normally would. Protein is also very important so that you don't lose lean tissue and mainly lose fat.
So what I'm hearing from your research is almost back to this debate between Dr. Ornish and Atkins of which is the better diet. So what I'm hearing from you is it's probably more towards the Ornish side.
Yeah, both of those are, as you say, are the two extremes,
yeah,
and
exactly.
both are very hard to stick with.
Yes.
For a long period. So I'm going to go more in the middle there. And this is mainly for athletes doing a lot of activity. If you're going out golfing or whatever, it probably doesn't matter so much. But if you're doing quite a bit of exercise,
so define that for me. How much is quite a bit?
Okay,
of exercise?
In general, our best evidence is for athletes who are doing at least moderately intense for about an hour. Now, if they're doing repeated sprints, many of them, that would also count. But it's not going to be someone who does a baseball field. Right. Or someone lifting a weight. is probably not the athlete that we're mainly focused on getting enough carbohydrate in.
So let me get off potatoes for a second and ask you about something else. I happen to have my office in Santa Monica, California, a few blocks away from Gold's Gym. So surrounding Gold's Gym are all these bodybuilding stores that are selling these protein powders for like $60, $70 in these huge things. And these are the guys who are, lifting 500 pounds once, and they're built like this.
Yeah.
And I look at them, and I don't consider them very healthy. I mean, they might be strong, but they're not very healthy.
Yeah.
And what can we do with potatoes to really get that message out there for somebody who is a moderate to strenuous exercise, but not necessarily a bodybuilder, to really understand the role of potatoes in their regimen?
Okay, good. Yeah, most of those powders not only are not critical because you could get it through diet, but also are very expensive.
Yeah.
So there are less expensive ways to get that same nutrition. Potatoes are interesting because they do provide the carbohydrate that we've been focused on so far, but it also has some protein, some good quality protein. So compared to a sports drink or just a pure carbohydrate source, it also provides not only protein, but potassium, antioxidants, and other things. So I think we need to educate individuals about the value of real foods and instead of always looking at these sports foods.
So how do we communicate to that consumer audience? How do we do it effectively so that they get it? Because, they've been, whether it's the whey powder or the soy powder, and doing their thing, and now we're saying, get back to real foods. How convincing do we have to be?
Well, I think we have to be pretty convincing, but I think it starts with Janet and I work at universities where we're educating young individuals to take the message to the people. And I think certainly in our country, in Canada, there seems to be a swing back to the importance of real foods. And I think a lot of it is to take better care in actually looking at what we eat. So for instance, when we work with athletic teams, we will more or less embed ourselves with them and do a 7-day dietary record and really get quality information about what they are doing eating-wise, and then be able to go in and say, rather than use those supplements, why don't you have a potato and this and that in preparation for the sport? Because I think in our society, it's all go, 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 grab this, grab that, and we really need to get back to proper meals in preparation for sport and proper meals in preparation after sport.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us and the research that you're doing and making potatoes forefront and really understanding the importance of potatoes and good nutrition. So thank you both so much.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Going to take a break. We'll be right back.